Good afternoon. We've heard lots of stories today, and I'd like to bring to you a story from Denver, Colorado. This story is around school food culture and the impact that the students' involvement has had on the school food culture in Denver and the impact it's had on the community. About 11 years ago, my wife and I moved our young family to Denver from Iowa so that she could pursue her vascular surgery career. Our two children were going to be entering kindergarten and third grade at our local elementary school. After I got the family settled, I began to ponder what was I going to do with my life here in Denver. I had 25 years experience as a culinary professional. I have a PhD in psychology, and I have a somewhat obsessive hobby as a vegetable gardener in the backyard. So I looked around and looked at several different jobs, but I eventually landed a position as a teacher's assistant at my children's school, helping out with reading and math. And then as I was reading with the children, there were a lot of references to food in their books. In one series in particular, the Boxcar Children, there was an episode in which the 5 young siblings had acquired the materials that they needed for dinner that night. When one of the 8-year-olds raised their hand and asked me a question, that at the time I thought, it's a pretty benign question. But now, as I look back at that question 11 years later, I realize it was the question that launched me on my path that led me here to Pine School today. She asked me, what is beef stew? And I thought, wow, as a culinary professional and as a father of 2 children, how could this young child not know what beef stew is? So I went to the classroom teacher and I asked her, could we do a cooking class for the students, and let's prepare the beef stew like they prepared in the book. So for 2 days, the kids and I worked together, and we did the chopping and the washing and the stirring and everything. We were making the beef stew. All the time I was talking to them, do you know where this food's come from? Where the vegetables grew, where the meat was raised? And I didn't get a lot of positive responses beside the fact that a carrot grows in the ground. So on the 3rd day, we were serving this meal to the parents with the kids in character from the book. I went up to the principal and I said, could I have a corner of the schoolyard to start a school garden to teach the kids how food is grown? She thought this was a great idea, so that launched the Steele Elementary School Garden Program. About that time, I read in the paper about a new chapter of Slow Food starting in Denver, with their mission of connecting people to their food sources. I went to their next meeting. I heard about their plans of 3 gardens at elementary schools in Denver, liked what I heard. My school became their 4th school, and together we launched what then was called the Seed to Table School Garden Program. Working with our partners, Learning Landscapes at the University of Colorado, Denver, and Denver Urban Gardens in Denver, we've been working with Denver Public Schools to transform schoolyards into more opportunities for physical activity and more opportunities for hands-on learning, with many of these opportunities involving school gardens. To date, we've built over 50 school gardens in Denver Public Schools with a 3-year goal that all 84 elementary schools will have school gardens. So what are these gardens and what does our program look like? Start the slides, please. The program starts in February, where the kids are planting seeds in the classroom, developing these seeds, nurturing these seeds into young seedlings, learning how to nurture them and how to care for them, how to transplant them in several transplantations, and then taking these seedlings out to the garden in the spring. The older kids are working the soil, adding the amendments, doing the composting, and the younger kids are adding the seedlings into the ground. Some of these seedlings go home so the kids can start their own gardens at home. Over the course of the summer, families volunteer for 2 weeks at a time to water, to weed, and to do some minor harvesting. With the overall goal is that we're producing a lot of food coming out of these gardens to engage the kids when they come back to school in early fall. In the fall, we offer 3 different types of programs. The first set of programs we call our Taste Education series. In these courses, we are trying to develop the palates of the children for this fresh food. Many children have lost the interest to try fresh fruits and vegetables, and we use the garden produce to try to stimulate that by using recipes from around the world. We started in the gardens and letting the kids sample the produce right off the plant. This is a huge experience for urban children, as they've never seen the food growing on the plant, let alone eat it off the plant. Then we take this food into the school cafeteria, and using our portable kitchens, we follow recipes from around the world. We use ingredients and spices they may not be familiar with, but we give the kids the power to manipulate their own flavors, to add whatever they need to that broccoli to make it more appealing to them, whether it be a creamy yogurt or a spicy chili pepper. So they are having control over the food that they're eating. The second program we offer is what we call the Garden to Cafeteria program. In this program, the students are harvesting from the school garden. They learn how to weigh that food, how to wash that food, and then they sell it to the school cafeteria to be used in their meals later that week. In this program, the students are learning what it is to be a farmer, the hard work that goes into growing the food and harvesting the food, and they also see the satisfaction of their classmates and their teachers, and when they're enjoying the food during their meals. The third program is the Youth Farmers Market program. In this program, the kids actually set up a farm stand on school grounds to sell produce from the school gardens, as well as produce from local farms. They learn the seasonality of foods, the locality of foods, and they also are gaining the satisfaction that they're feeding their community. Many of these schools are in communities without grocery stores and without immediate access to fresh fruits and vegetables from the state, and our school program offers that to them. The overall goal of these three programs is to build positive relationships with food. We've seen so many negative relationships that kids have with food, with the rise in obesity, the rise of heart disease and diabetes. We also see that kids have very ambiguous relationships with food. They get hungry, they eat something, and then the hunger goes away. Yet they miss out on the pleasures of preparing food with their family or friends, or sitting around at the table, sharing a meal, and sharing the events of the day. In our courses, we try to capture those pleasures. They have success in growing food. They see the food coming off the vine. They feed it to their friends in the cafeteria or sell it to their community. These are all positive relationships with food. We hope that these positive relationships will transfer into good food choices as they get older, as they become young adults and they have money in their pocket and they can buy their own food, and as they become young parents, they can share these positive relationships with their children. We've gotten a lot of positive feedback from the parents and from the children with these courses, but what's been amazing to me is how these simple courses have rippled throughout the school district to affect other positive changes in the district. Take, for example, the school cafeterias. The last 3 years, we've seen a huge transformation in how food is purchased, how food is prepared, and how food is served in the district's cafeterias. 3 years ago, SlowFood Denver and Denver Public Schools worked together on an application to a program called School Food Focus, which is a national collaboration of the largest school districts that are using their combined purchasing power to affect change on the national level as well as the local level. So on the national level, we represent 31 school districts, over 4 million children. And we're using that buying power to get producers of bread and chicken to sit down at the table. And we get to tell them we want more whole grains in our bread and we want less antibiotics in the chickens. At the local level, these school districts are working together to use their best practices to show how it's possible to use local food in the school cafeterias. In Denver, SlowFood Denver has served several different roles supporting this program. Find my last hat here. Whoop, didn't make it. We've served as a role as a connector, bringing farmers in the school district together to one table so that they can sit down and talk together to see what the possibilities are in the state of Colorado for local food. We've also served as a translator serving to make sure that everyone's speaking a common language, that the farmers and the school districts understand what each other is talking about so that we can start working on the same problems with the same language. Last year, Denver Public Schools completed its first year in this local buying project. Altogether, they bought $1.2 million worth of Colorado fruits, vegetables, meats, and dairy products out of an annual food budget of $8 million. We think we're off to a good start. In the school cafeterias, DPS launched a program last year called Back to the Future with Scratch Cooking. In this program, the goal is to train all 750 kitchen employees on how to follow a recipe, how to cook from scratch, how to do proper measurements, and how to make things like bread and casseroles. SlowFood Denver supported Denver Public Schools by bringing in local chefs from the community with specialized skills, as well as supplying our own talents to this effort. We've seen a huge response by the kids, and we've seen a great response by the kitchen workers. They now have a satisfaction of their job because they're actually preparing food rather than using frozen food out of a box. And we've even heard stories that they're taking these skills home with them to prepare better meals for their families at home. Finally, we've also seen a way that the schools are changing the way they serve food to the kids. 2 years ago, there was not a single salad bar in Denver Public Schools. Now we have over 100 salad bars in the district. The kids are learning how to serve themselves from the salad bar, making their own selections of fruits and vegetables, and they're absolutely pouring through the salad bars, increasing their consumption. And we've seen an overall participation in the school meal program because of the salad bars. Beyond the school district, or beyond the school cafeterias, we are still seeing changes happening within the district because of the school garden programs. Denver Public Schools is the largest landowner in the city of Denver. Many of the school properties have more land than they really need for their PE classes, for the athletic events, and for recess. Some of this land is under grass, which needs to be watered and maintained, and that's very expensive. Some of this land is under gravel, and it's an eyesore to the community. So our School Garden Coalition went to grounds and facilities last year to propose some new ways of using this land. Just this month, we've launched a pilot program at 2 school sites where we are starting school farms, working with a contract farming group called Agriburbia, where they're going to be growing right now lettuce and winter greens and such that grounds and facilities will own, and then they will sell that to food and nutrition services to be used in the lunch meals. Now, instead of the land costing money to maintain, the land's going to become a revenue generator for grounds and facilities, as well as a source of local food at a low cost for the cafeteria folks. Throughout the district, we're also looking at new ways of using the school buildings. With all this fresh food coming in from local farms and the potential of 25 to 30 school farms in the next 5 years, we have to look at new ways of collecting this food and of managing this food. So working with a group called Real Food Colorado, we are looking at empty school buildings or buildings that are underutilized and designing what we're calling school-based food hubs or center of aggregation for farmers to bring their products to the school district so that school district can do some minimal processing of washing, cutting, and bagging, and then shipping it out to their individual schools. Beyond the school district, we're seeing some positive changes as a result of the school garden programs. At 20 of my schools last year, we logged the name of 500 volunteers that spent at least a day in the school engaging the kids in the garden. So the community is becoming more engaged in the schools. We are seeing groups like the Kitchen Foundation and Transition Colorado, local groups that are using their financial resources and their connections in the community to build more school gardens or help us to build the infrastructure to move this fresh food around. We are seeing programs like Cooking Matters of Colorado, the educational arm of Share Our Strength, using school buildings not only to educate the kids about healthy eating, but to educate the families and the parents about how to cook healthy meals on a limited budget. At the state level, we've seen the formation of the Farm to School Task Force, which I was appointed to by the governor. The Farm to School Task Force is looking at pilot programs, looking at funding opportunities, and looking at policy changes that will support farm to school efforts across the state. This is what's happening in Denver, and we're very excited about this. But the story is going to continue. And being a TED Talk, I'd now like to share with you my big ideas for how this story is going to continue. At the community level, I see schools becoming an economic engine for recovery for our community. If we can keep more of the food dollar that schools are going to spend in our community, supporting Colorado farms, producing more jobs on the farm, in processing and in distribution, these dollars will help drive recovery in a very tough economic times in our community. I see a great future for these food hubs, for not only collecting Colorado fresh fruits and vegetables for the schools, but also serving the community as well. Let's use the school facilities and the school practices of safe food handling and collect this food and make it available to the community. I see a day when mom and dad come and pick up Bobby and Sue at school and then go next door to pick up their fresh fruits and vegetables for the week. Or go to the school cafeteria as a dining option to have a wonderfully cooked meal by a chef. I see groups like, I see the schools being used by community groups as an educational center, not only just to teach our kids, but to teach the whole community on healthy eating and on healthy habits. If we go, well, throughout this presentation, I've listed the names of many groups that have participated in this. And that has been meant to show you that school districts cannot do this alone. We got into this mess of school food because school districts were working by themselves and they didn't have the support of the community. It has taken a whole community in Denver to produce these changes. And without the community coming together in a positive way, we would not be where we are today. And I've also demonstrated for you all the different hats that I've worn throughout this project to signify the talents and the skills that are available for anyone to come and help to contribute to this situation in your schools. Bring your talents, bring your connections to the schools and offer them in a positive way, and they would be more than happy to take on your services. At the district level, I've shown changes that have happened as a result of the school gardens, in the school cafeterias, on the school lands, and in the school buildings. These are producing positive ripples throughout the city of Denver, as Denver Public Schools showed the largest student enrollment last year of any school district in the state of Colorado. We like to think that they're responding to our programs in the gardens. Finally, back at the school level, the kids are learning that the simple act of planting a seed in a pot and nurturing that plant through its life cycles, harvesting that food, serving that food to their community, sharing it with their friends, that simple act is having a ripple effect throughout the district, throughout the community, for positive change, for bringing everyone back together again. My vision goes 10 to 15 years in the future when I'm beginning to slow down a bit and I'm volunteering at my yet-to-be-born grandchild's classroom, and I'm reading with them from the boxcar children. And one of them looks up to me and says, "Grandpa, I really enjoyed that beef stew I had for lunch the other day in the school cafeteria, with the beef coming from Rancher Mike and the vegetables coming from our school farm. I really look forward to next week when I get to work on the farm and sell produce during the cafeteria." That's my vision for Denver. I wish that vision upon you here at the Pine School. Thanks for listening to my story.